On today's episode, I talk with Carlo Piscitello about world's toughest mudder.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. Thank you for listening. You are listening to the number one rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world because of listeners like you. Thank you for rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts. Carlo and I talked for more than an hour, so we're going to get right to it right after we listen to some iTunes reviews. Right after we listen to some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars.
There's no reviews today. But I talked with Carlo Piscitello for an hour. Carlo is a longtime member of the community. He's a friend of mine, and he knows as much about World's Toughest Mudder as anyone else does. If this is your first time running this year, we talk about lots of first-timer stuff. Stuff about the cliff, stuff about the pit area, stuff about first-timer tips. If you could tell a first-timer one thing, what would you tell them? And more information like that. And some of it's just us talking about the race and memories and stuff we've done, mistakes we've made. Anyway, it's a good chat with Carlo and I. After you listen, do me a kindness and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and I would appreciate it. It's time to talk with Carlo Piscitello. Let's go to the phones. Carlo Piscitello, welcome back to the show.
Will Hicks, thank you for having me, man. It's always a pleasure. How are you?
Good. How has your 2021 been?
You know what? It's actually been pretty awesome. It's been so nice to get back out and do stuff and get out to events and see everyone again. So yeah, I can't complain.
So we're going to talk about three things really: the 2021 season / 2021 endurance series. We'll talk about World's Toughest Mudder coming up, and then we have lots to talk about for 2022, including the brand new Tough Mudder Infinity. First, let's talk about 2021. How did you spend your 2021 with Tough Mudder?
Well, I guess it's just nice to be able to get out and do events, right? I drove out to Colorado. That was fantastic. Colorado is always usually a pretty fun event. This year was it was great because it was the first one I've done post-pandemic. Well, not that we're out of the pandemic, but you know what I mean? The location was a bit interesting because it was basically, you go to Colorado, you're like, yeah, I can't wait to get to Colorado. And it was, and Tough Mudder's hands are kind of tied, right? Because it's like, do you want to make it accessible for people so they can close to the airport, or do you want to make it up in the mountains where it's 4 hours away? So, it basically was going to be a development, like a neighborhood development at some point. So it was, the course itself was fun and I really enjoyed the area, but yeah, to not be in the mountains was a little, and actually I talked with Kyle McLaughlin about it and he totally knows and understands. And he's like, we're working on, getting back further up into the hills in future years. So, but it didn't really take away from the event. It was just so nice to be back out and see everybody.
Stuff like that. Not that we're just giving everyone, we always give them a pass, but 2020 was terrible. And 2021, everyone needs to get their feet back under them, right? It's across the board. So I don't want to, I'm slower to criticize or to be wag my finger because we're all figuring this out as we get back to normal life.
In all fairness, I was so anxious to get back. They could have been like, hey, by the way, we're having it at the Colorado sewage plant. And I'm like, yes, let's go. Whatever. Get me back on course. So I was just so happy to be back out there,
I don't know if I would be excited to run in the Colorado sewage plant.
They got pretty clean water up there, man. I don't know.
That's what sewage is, right? That's not what
I'm familiar. Yes, I'm familiar.
It's your joke, man. You started this.
I know. It's just anyway.
Hey, you were also able to spend some time at Toughest Mudder, a couple Toughest Mudders. Tell me about that, and tell me about the teams you saw.
Yeah, man, the whole adventure series, or excuse me, endurance series this year has been kind of, if you went to any of them, the Team Four Locos is kind of been the underlying theme of the whole thing. Those guys, which is, let's see, that's made up of Jake Ramsby, Javier, Escobar, thank you, it's Christian Brown Johnson, and Elliot Reeb. And so as a team, they won East and West, and then they paired down to a 2-man team in Central and won that by, like, I think they set the record for like most miles ever by any one or team at a Toughest Mudder event. So was it 70 miles they ran? I forget the number, but it was the all-time record. So good for them. But it's been so great. I really enjoy getting out and covering those events. I do want to get back to actually running. The more I go to them, I'm like, why? Like the Seattle one, honestly, I was like, man, if I had not committed to cover, it's because that's such a great. Have you been to Seattle, the venue?
I have not. No.
Oh, it's great. It's I mean, it's basically like it sounds funny. It's like a coal mining plant, but it's not at all. Like, it's still all green and beautiful and lush, and the trail is always soft, and the weather's always mild, and it's a great place to just go and get some miles.
Let's talk about World's Toughest Mudder. What are your plans for World's Toughest 2021?
Let's talk about World's. I am so excited for World's Toughest Mudder for numerous reasons. One, and I don't want to like jinx myself, but I'm probably in like some of the best shape I've been in a long time. And so, especially when it comes to running Worlds, because I've been covering Worlds for the past, I guess it would be 3 years if you include 2020. So I'm kind of excited about the venue. It sounds like from people I know who have done the Spartan out there, it doesn't sound like it's crazy elevation. So I'm kind of liking the fact that it's going to be kind of arid and flat. Although the Colorado River does run right by there. So I think everybody who's been to Vegas is hoping that they incorporate some type of a cliff, not a stacks like they did in Atlanta. I understand what they were trying to do with stacks. The issue I think the people ran into with that is that it took so long to get up to the top of stacks that people were finding that the penalty was actually easier to take. So you want something where you can't think, you gotta just like step off and go. So did you enjoy the cliff? Are you a cliff? Like, yeah, I love the cliff, or?
You know what? Okay. So for people who've never run Worlds in Vegas, we were in Vegas for 4 years, and just because of the like natural landscape, there's a natural part of the course where you're running and they kind of take you off to the left, and without having to climb or do any work, you're on the edge of a cliff and you jump. I want to say it was 40 feet, 60 feet. Well, how high was that? 60 feet sounds too high. I think it was 40.
It's not 60.
40 to 45 feet, depending on how long the water level is, I think is what it was.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
But because sometimes we'd have a regular Tough Mudder like a month before, and people would take pictures of where the cliff is, and then we come back a month later for Worlds, and it's a different level. No, I didn't hate the cliff. I didn't love it, but what I had to do is I'd always have to like stand like 10 feet back from the edge and then wait for the volunteer to tell me it's clear. I'm like, is it clear? Is it clear? Because I'm not going to stop. I'm going to start moving forward from this 10 feet back, and I'm just going to keep, like, I'm not going to, if there's someone under me, I'm jumping on them. So is it clear?
Right.
Because like if I one time I walked up to the edge, and once you start looking down, like that's not that it's over, like you can't jump if you look down, but man, it's a lot harder once you start looking down. So you just had to, for me at least, I had to stand way back so I couldn't see the water, and then just like kind of like getting marched off a pirate ship, just go for it.
Okay, so you're a stepper offer, as we would say. You're a walk the plank.
I'm a walk the planker. What's the other option?
Okay.
Jumper?
What's that?
What's the other option?
I'm literally a toes to the edge, kind of peek over.
Oh no!
And then just take one step and go, because I'm not. It doesn't bother me, like, especially dude at night when they got the green lights shining up from under the water.
That's pretty cool.
So cool. Kind of reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean, kind of as a kid. So it's like it's really kind of cool. And so yeah, I get right to the edge, look at the guy or gal, and wait him for the say go, and I just do my one step. And then all my thoughts of like cross your feet and put your hands across that all goes out the window. I just start kind of flapping my wings and just don't land sideways. You know what I mean? Point your toes, like all the ideas of what you're. The only thing I do is I put my GoPro, I put my headlamp around my neck, and I learned from the very first time when that sucker came up and smashed me in the face. Like I put my hand against my chest, keeping my headlamp there, And that's the only thing I really remember how to do. The rest I just go like, well, we'll figure it out when we hit the water.
I was a scuba instructor for about 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And so we practiced entries, how to get in from, a cliff. And so you'd have all this like hoses and stuff hanging off of you. And basically it's the exact same principle. Like you get everything in tight in front of you, hold it tight, keep your chin down. So you don't, well, there's no scuba tank to worry about, and then you go for it. So after you jumped into the water at the cliff, there was a short climb up a cargo net to get back on the course.
Yes.
But for 2 years in Atlanta, the cliff replacement was called stacks, or the stacks. And it was cargo containers stacked on top of each other. I don't know how many cargo containers, but it was about the same, like 40-something foot drop.
Was it 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, it was, but you had to like climb up like a real, like, I don't know if you call it a ladder, but you had to climb up to get up to the top of the stacks. And that took time and effort and work on your legs. And then you had to do, the same process, kind of toes to the edge or walk out, however you wanted to do it,
right,
to get out. So the big climb was once you got down to the water, you just kind of swam to the side and kept running. You didn't have to climb out really of the stacks, but it took a lot more time and effort to do that obstacle than it did to do in the cliff.
You're right, because just your entry is so much more difficult. We had to work for it, right? So, yeah. But I know we kind of got off track there. But
no, hey,
so anyway,
one thing you said,
Laughlin.
One thing. Okay, so you mentioned Laughlin. Like you don't think of it as elevation. I never thought of Vegas as having crazy elevation. It had that one hill that you always had to go up to, like with the Death March, they call it, up to Ladder to Hell, was always kind of at the top there.
Right. Yep. But you kind of went to you went up to stage 5 Klinger, and then they opened it up later. And which, by the way, can we just agree that's one of the best obstacle names ever? Given the obstacle, what it actually was, and then the name, I'm like, every time I say it, I pause and just go, God, that was a good name. That's a good named obstacle. Anyway, yes, then you'd go up the hill. It was like another 800 feet of elevation, right? It wasn't horrible.
It did. I mean, it wasn't fun, especially after like 12 or 20 hours.
No, it wasn't fun.
But I never thought of, I never thought of Vegas in the same category as like Whistler or like Colorado. We were talking about earlier. Or even Glen Helen coming up in a few weeks. Like that one to me that's probably the worst one I've done as far as elevation with the hills.
And so many false peaks at Glen Helen. You're like, you're just like, trudging up, and you're like, okay, oh, there it is. I can see the peak right there. And you get there, and it's like a right-hand turn. And you're like, what? And up again. Yeah.
This is kind of some inside baseball stuff for people that aren't super into tough. Like if you're listening to this, you're into Tough Mudder, right? Like Glen Helen, you'd be going up there and you're like, I'm almost there. Finally, I'm almost there. And you get there and there's another, like, you're like, what happened to the top? I'm at the top. Nope, that's not the top. And
how do you hide a mountain?
Yeah. But there's another one like right there, and you drop down a little and you go back up and drop down and go back up. And
it's not like it's a roller. It's like oh no.
And there's like 4 or 5 of those throughout the course. I remember, in Southern California here, we used to run at, what's that lake? In Vail Lake. And there was one giant hill at Vail Lake. And I was like, man, that was really bad. But San Bernardino, Glen Helen has like 4 or 5 of those. So.
Yeah. And it's funny because going down there each year, I know that they're there. And yet I still forget about at least one. When I'm like, okay, that's all the little false peaks I remember. And then So anyway, course designers there give it 110%. Tell you that much.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the hills make it easier for them. So tell me more about Laughlin. What else are you looking forward to with Worlds this year?
I'm just looking forward to, hopefully not a lot of elevation. And I'm looking forward to just getting back out and doing Worlds myself. They've dropped, Kyle was on with you, last week or week before, and dropped a little hint about the fact that they might be doing kind of like some obstacle combos.
You call them mashups.
The one he actually, exactly. Is that a collab? I don't know what the kids call it these days. I age myself. Mashup. There you go.
Featuring.
I think the one he mentioned, and I was just like, no, man, was, which by the way, you shouldn't ever say, I don't like that, and let Kyle hear you, because then he's going to do it 10 times. What was it? It was, he said, think Pitfall meets EST. And I'm like, I don't want to do anything meets EST. Like, I think about Worlds in 2019, when they had you had that gauntlet of, not the gauntlet, but you had that the climb with the walls, but you could avoid going over the walls if you did the Electric Avenue, which was back to back to back electrified obstacles. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm going over the walls. I'm going, because people love Operation, and I hate that obstacle. if it was ever a must complete, I would just be like, oh, I'm just not competing then, honestly, because no.
I've always been of the opinion that the electric obstacles at Tough Mudder or at competitive events are equivalent to the spear throw at Spartan events. Like, it just doesn't really fit in with the, like, the physical. But you know what?
You're going to get us in trouble, dude.
I've kind of come around on it, man.
Kyle's listening. That's not what I want to hear.
Like, there is nothing that messes with your head more than just direct pain. Like, especially when you're, okay, you've done EST, electroshock therapy. It's the finishing obstacle at Tough Mudder. You're standing at the front of it, and Clinton's making fun of you for not going fast enough. And you're looking at it, and you're like, I know exactly what this is going to feel like. I've done it before. And some friends are like, you're there with first timers, or you're there with somebody getting their 50th, and we all got to do it. And you do it anyway. Like, but it messes with your head. And that's like one of the things, like mental grit. Sean's told you about it 100 times.
No, I know.
I'm kind of coming. I don't like it, but I don't know. I get it at least. I don't love it, but I get it.
And the thing, I had convinced myself going up to Seattle for covering Toughest. I had convinced myself that, like, you know what, it really isn't that bad, because after all, at nighttime, those things are all solar powered, and Then I started spending some time at EST, and I was like, nope, people are still getting nailed. Doggone it! Like, I went over to Electric Eel. People are getting nailed. Doesn't matter that it's 3 a.m. and it hasn't been light outside for hours. Those things hold a charge or whatever. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. It just sucks. And anyway, just allow me to gripe for a minute, will you?
Okay, so I don't know if this is a rumor that went around for a while, and I still don't know if it's true or not. There have been days when you and I have been out there, and they're like, oh, it's really hot today. Like the wires are hot. Like it'll hurt you more than usual. There are lesser and greater days, right? Where it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad, or oh, that was a bad one today. Like, don't go through there if you don't have to. So the rumor was, or that got passed around, was that on cloudy days when the sun is blocked, because they're solar powered, I'm saying with air quotes, it doesn't hurt as much. And so and following that logic, well, shoot, man, at 3 a.m, there's no sun out then. But they're doing it. Clearly still hurts. Like, it's clearly either I don't know if they're charging a battery. I've never seen solar panels out there. Have you? I haven't.
I've seen there's a little one like next to the main switch. I've seen before, but
that's not enough to power all those wires. There's no way.
I don't think so. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know, man.
Anyway,
I just don't like it. I just don't like it. And it's fine. It is what it is. I hate that phrase too, by the way. And it's going to be on course. I'm going to have to do it. So I don't whine, kids whine. Is that what they say?
Electroshock or electric obstacles are an easy way to ramp up the difficulty of the course as a whole. Because if you see, oh, there's 3 electric obstacles in a row, like that's just automatically a hard spot. Now, you didn't run 2018 is the year I'm thinking of with Electric Avenue. I ran it, and I don't like electric.
2019.
Well, I didn't run 2019. I had a surgery, but 2018, I know they had Electric Avenue.
Oh, there you go. Right. Okay.
And again, not a fan of the electricity stuff, but like you crawl through electroshock. It gets hit maybe once. You go through operation. You figure it out. You don't get shocked at all. And the third one was entrapment. With the kind of electrified straps.
Yeah, and that wasn't bad, right?
Yeah, that one, it's these straps, and they don't even look like electric straps. Like, you see the wires hanging down in electroshock therapy, you know those are going to hurt you, right? These straps did not look electrified. And so I got through it 2 or 3 times, and I was like, I haven't been shocked there once. I don't even think those are on. And so the next time...
Yeah, speaking of false peaks.
So the next time I found out, yeah, they are on.
Yeah. Have you been to an event yet this year?
I have not. I have intentionally not gone, because if I go, I will run. And I cannot get hurt before I run my World's Toughest this year. Okay,
fair enough. Because one of the things that I've noticed with kind of the crossover, and I don't know if it's directly related to Spartan, being Big Brother, but they've got a lot of the obstacles now are a little more permanent. Like EST now has it's not all wood frame. It's an actual it looks like the little thing the DJ mounts his lights to, that type of aluminum structure.
Sure.
And man, they have so many more wires hanging down in EST. Like there is no weaving, maybe on a windy day, but there is no weaving, dude. Like you just have to, You just either you try to crawl because they're not as long. So either you crawl, but then the hay bale will screw you up, or I usually just do I call it the bullet head, where I just get my hands together, stick them out in front of me, and I just like Han Solo down the little corridor. I just charge, and it's like I ain't got time. I gotta just figure out where the hay bales are. I know when to jump. Like I'm playing Mario or something, and just like pop pop and get out, and just that's it. That's my method. Not waiting around for anybody. Like I gotta go.
They took all that money they used to spend on wood and they put it into wires.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
The good thing about World's Toughest and Electroshock is that you're wearing a wetsuit and you probably have a hood on and gloves.
Yeah.
And you can cover your face. You're still going to get shocked. Like it'll shock you through your wetsuit, but it's like the ideal, as close to an ideal uniform for going through that obstacle as you could have.
Right. Until 10 a.m. when you start taking layers off and you got one more lap in you, and you're like, oh dang it, but that's okay.
So Electroshock meets Pitfall. Not excited.
No, I'm not.
I think you'll be able to crawl it though. I think crawling it might be easier. I don't know.
But isn't Pitfall? That's when you're like, it's just like a bog you go through, but they like dig the pits out, so you're.
Now, Pitfall, there are some like that, but I think when he says Pitfall specifically, I think he's talking about they dig a hole, and you can from the top you can see like a square hole filled with water / mud, right? But once you start walking through a regular Pitfall obstacle, once you start walking through it, all of a sudden you'll go bloop, and you'll drop down like 2 feet. Like there's these little cutouts, squares or something inside.
Right, exactly, that's what.
The Pitfall. So I think you're going to have at least 12 inches of water that you're walking through, right?
And then so they're going to put like wires over the top of us?
I'm guessing the same as you are, but those wires cannot be actively touching the water. So there's going to be, and if anything, you could like roll onto your back and kind of do like a invisible
cage crawl.
Yeah, like a mime doing cage crawl. I don't know,
man. I guess that's kind of part of the fun of it, right? Is we don't know until we get there or until the map comes out, which everyone gets so excited about that map, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't get whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever's on the map, I gotta do it anyway. So,
so if it's your first year, what they usually do a few weeks before World's Toughest is Team HQ will start releasing the map one puzzle piece at a time. They'll take the map and they'll cut it into like 24 puzzle pieces, and they'll be like, here's a piece of the map, and it may have an obstacle on it. It may just be like the corner and has some terrain, but the World's Toughest Mudder community on Facebook they'll kind of figure out the scale of the map. Then they'll take a Google Maps screenshot, and they'll start overlaying the map onto the course. And so you'll start to see the course fill in like a day at a time or a piece at a time as you get close to the race. My first year, I was super excited about that puzzle piece thing. I think as each year goes on, you're like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's easy or hard. Like, it's going to be hard no matter what.
Yeah.
But I got to show up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like I complain and joke about electrified obstacles, but it's like it's the way it goes, man. That's what we pay money for, to do this.
I mean, you're paying. JD Allen told me, he's like, it's called World's Toughest Mudder, man. You don't want it to be easy.
I love JD Allen, by the way. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Like we were talking after 2018, after the ice storm, and he's like, that's kind of the whole point, right? Like this is what you want. This is what you signed up for. It's a bonus, the ice. So, do you have any advice for someone their first time at World's Toughest?
Yeah, it's the same advice I offer anybody. Which, first off, is like, don't listen to too much advice from people, because trust me, there are people who would love to give you advice about stuff, and I got so much advice my very first year in 2015, too much, right? So I mean, stick to your plan. My big thing, okay, to get all caught up, the biggest thing I say is just like, don't spend a lot of time in the pit, right? Keep moving. Even if you're walking, you're getting mileage. So that's it. Like, don't matter. You want to hike a whole lap? Hike a whole lap. It doesn't matter. You have 24 hours. Like, just don't come back to the pit and lollygag and sit. No, I'm tired. Of course you're tired. Everybody's tired. It's 12, 14, 18 hours in. Yeah, you're supposed to be tired, dude. You've been up for a day and a half. Like, that's what happened. And you're going to be really, really sore. So, because no matter what you're doing training wise, it's not duplicating what you're doing right now. So that's my biggest thing always, is just move.
And you said you said you've got 24 hours. Like, you've only got 24 hours. And like
Right.
that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes, that's only 10 minutes. I just need to sit down for 10 minutes and, take my shoes off. That 10 minutes times 10, like it's an hour, like almost immediately. And if you sit down, it's not going to be a 10-minute stop. Like it's going to be 15 at least and probably more.
And, the other thing too, and this is especially early in the race, when they start, now they've been doing the obstacle rollout where nothing for the first hour and then obstacles every 20, 30 minutes. Like you can, if you run a decent pace, you can get almost 2 full laps in without having to do an obstacle. Dude, that's 10 miles in the bank without having to do an obstacle.
Okay, so here's my deal with that. And I've made this mistake every single year I've run World's Toughest Mudder is I got to get out. I got to run fast because those obstacles are closed right now. And whatever your regular pace is, so you're like, I'm going to run a little faster than my regular pace. You're only going to miss 1 or 2 extra obstacles. Like by gassing yourself out early, you're only going to save yourself 5 or 10 minutes. And what happened to me is I felt that first lap and a half, whatever, the rest of the 24 hours.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like it's, to me at least, it is not. There are people that bust out in that start line like they're running a 5K, and it'll happen.
That's not me.
And it's happened every year. It'll happen this year. I was just looking at pictures from 2019. Like there are people out there that are just hauling off that start line. I was like, let them go. Like let them go. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. Is like run your own race. Like I'm not competing with that guy. He might run 110 miles. That's fine. I know you come here to run 110 miles. So
yeah. Well, as they say, now that I take it back because in toughest it's happened, but in World's Toughest Mudder, there's never been a sprint lap winner who's won the race.
Except for Ray Coble.
Oh, at World's Toughest Mudder, with the exception of Ray Coble, there's never been a sprint lap winner who's won the race.
She's the only person, man or woman, to ever win World's Toughest wire to wire.
Amelia won it in 2019, and then but she knew she wasn't. No, she won. No, I'm sorry, she won the sprint lap.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but literally she was like, I don't have the sprint lap bib yet, and she knew she wasn't going to be running probably the whole night, so she was like, screw it, I'll go out there and just. Wouldn't that be nice? Will, you or I just sitting around going like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take the sprint lap tonight. No big deal. And then you got that switch in your body where you go boink, and it's just like sprint lap. Give me the bib.
Amelia Boone and Ray Coble and Ryan Atkins, athletes like that, they think about questions that you and I would literally never enter our head. Hey, should I try and win the sprint lap this year?
Right?
That thought has never, those words have never passed across my lips, through my brain, ever.
Which 100-miler should I do this year? What? Like cumulatively, or what are we talking about? Because
do I want to go?
Amelia, she just did one a couple weeks ago.
Do I want to go win the Spartan North American champs, or do I want to go win the OCR World Championships this weekend?
Right. By the way, talk about dividing and conquering. Great job, Atkins. Great job, and Webster family.
Good job, Canada. Well done.
I'm sure if they had a world championship for the dogs, that Sunto would probably win too. That big fluffy loof. What a beautiful dog that is. Anyway, let's not get started on dogs.
So as far as advice for first timers, that's kind of what you said is what I'm taking for mine. Like, don't stop. Like, don't sit down. Yeah. You can. It's only 24 hours. You can do anything for only. You cannot sit down for one day, right? Just like it's going to be tempting. You know what? You're not going to be able to do this again for 12 months. Like this is. Allison Tai told me once. She's like, you want to finish that race and have nothing left in the tank. I remember once I was running and I'm like, I'm getting tired. And you know how your brain's like, we should probably walk now, right? We've been running for a while. We should walk. And I was like, man, if I don't stop running now, I'm going to be really tired when this race is over. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, I can rest tomorrow. Like I need
Spoiler alert. You're still going to be tired when the race is over.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many miles you did.
Right. And that's your brain, man. Your brain is like your enemy during these things. You need to be able to just turn it off. And that's the biggest obstacle for me is my brain. Cause I can get into my head really easy. I'm an overthinker, and it's just like, it can cause all kinds of problems. So 2 things I've kind of taken from my strategy this year. One is don't stop. Like the pit is your enemy. You don't want to be in the pit. It's tempting. It's your enemy. Get from the finish line to the start of the next lap as fast as possible. And I mean, I'm going to get food and shit or whatever, but don't stop. And the other thing is don't do math. Like once you're out there, you'll like start being like, okay, well, if I can walk this lap as long as I make it in time for that, if I get there by 12 o'clock, then I can.
No.
First of all, you're going to be terrible at it on the course after 12 hours. It's like after 6 hours, your brain is just not, you're not going to be able, like, you literally cannot do the math correctly in your head. And second of all, it's loser math. Like, the only reason you're doing math is to like let yourself off the hook. Like, how slow am I allowed to go right now?
You are so correct. That is so accurate.
Don't do math and don't stop.
I like lap, what was it, in 2017, and I was so exhausted. Like on my second to last lap, or I think I had it in my head. Okay, I'm gonna go back in. Keith Allen was my pit crew, and Cassie Harris Hellier, and I was like, I'm gonna go in, and I need to sleep. Because I asked, oh gosh, I can't remember who I was with at the moment. But you remember that was the penalty. You failed Kong, and they sent you out on that like half mile, and you had to do Arctic Enema, but it was just like lukewarm, and you just had to go down a slide for no reason. I was on that area over there where there's that little bridge that kind of crossed the reservoir, or the little, the man-made lake, and I was walking, and literally kind of found myself leaning into my running buddy at the time, and kind of like perked up, and I'm like I legit fell asleep, like standing up, walking. And I was like, he was like, you okay? And I was like, dude, I think I actually just fell asleep. So I convinced myself, I'm gonna go back to the pit. I'll tell Keith, give me an hour. I'm gonna sleep for an hour, and then I'll go back out and do my last lap. That's what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be great. It'll be fine. And I got back to the pit, and I was like, here's my plan. He's like, here's your stuff. Get back out there. You're not stopping. I was like, no, I was gonna sleep. No, go, get out. And it was so good though, because that's why he was so great. Because I had convinced myself this is what I need to do. I was never going to get back up, dude. You know what I mean? Probably. So yeah.
That's one of the first questions when you tell somebody about World's Toughest Mudder. They're like, well, do you get to sleep at all? And like, yeah, you can, but you don't want to. Like, if that's how you'll end up with, 10 miles and the wrong color headband at the end, because it's a very hard race and it will kick your butt.
The only other thing I would offer for a new person, because this, and I learned this my first year too, was like, especially if you're in the community, the Facebook community, whatever, is like, you don't get caught up in what other people are posting as far as their training and stuff, because trust me, I saw a ton of people, because 2015, we were in and out of water a lot, and a lot of people went hypothermic that year. And it's like, people who I saw, like who I was intimidated by watching their workout videos, because I'm just like, I'm not doing anything close to that. And these guys are crushing pull-ups, and they're going on the playground equipment in the neighborhood and doing all this crap. And I'm just like, dude, am I going to die? Like and then like lap 4, I come back to the pit, and that guy's in like hoodies and sweats. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, because you can totally convince yourself that you're not doing enough, and you're probably doing fine. Are you doing pull-ups? Are you doing push-ups? Are you doing grip stuff? Are you running? You're going to be all right.
I always tell people that
you're still going to die, but
the upper body stuff is important, but the most important thing is running, because people will help you over the obstacles, but you have to physically move your body around the course 5 miles at a time. Like, no one's going to run for you. You've got to do that. So,
sage advice.
I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what though? I think there is something to say for, the community is a big part of, I've always said the community is the second best part of World's Toughest Mudder. The sweet bibs are the first.
Sweet bibs.
And I don't think there's any shame in like, hey, especially if it's your first year, like, I just want to go to World's Toughest Mudder. Like, just my goal is to last the 24 hours. Maybe I do spend some time in the pit. Maybe because it's fun. The pit is fun. There's music going. Sean and Clinton are there. There's people that you've seen on the internet or seen in the community groups that are hanging out. There's a ton of pit people that are just, having fun, waiting for the people to come back. Like, it's a fun environment. Like, and that kind of is another, if you're trying to get mileage, it's also your enemy. Like, you don't want that fun environment if you want mileage. But I don't think there's any shame in, enjoying the kind of that part of if you're like, hey, I just want to get 20 miles or 25 miles and like experience World's Toughest Mudder. I mean, that's another angle to it too.
And isn't it great though? Like, when you have like, particularly like, we call them dark laps or crap laps, but you just have that one lap where it's like, you're just spent, and maybe you failed some stuff you didn't think you were supposed to fail at that point of the race, and you're just like not. And especially in Vegas, when you're a drowned sewer rat coming up out of the, after you get out of the cliff, and you're just like slogging your way back to the start finish line. But then you see, like, you hear the music, and you see Sean or Clinton and they got their beanies on or whatever, and they're just like dancing. And it's just like, it just gives you a little something, it just kind of puts a little like gas back in the tank. And you're like, okay, I'm not dying. My friends are here. Okay, I can go get some food and get back out there.
And literally any tiredness or fatigue or soreness, like with exceptions, but generally all of this is going to be over in 24 hours. You're going to be sore, but like the pain will stop in 24 hours. Like you just have to make it 12 more hours. You just have to make it 6 more hours. You just have to make it 2 more hours, 1 more lap. Like it's a day. Like you can do anything for a day.
I will say though, those middle of the night laps when it starts thinning out a little bit, and you're like talking to your pit crew and everything's great and fun. Okay, cool. Go get it. Go. And you leave and you go through the arch and you kind of like get up over that first little whatever. And then it's just you and you're back on course for the first time and you're all by yourself. That gets a little, it
deflates real fast. All that enthusiasm.
Yeah, seriously. All those good feelings just kind of go, blah.
And you're like, getting further away from the music. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's getting cooler and it's just, yes. But at the same time, I miss that feeling, man. That's really the thing about covering the toughest events for me is like during the events, I don't, okay, cool. I like covering it. It's great. But it's at the end when everyone's like celebrating and some people are crying and you're all that like not being able to feel that suffrage, right? That's what I actually miss. It's horrible and weird as that sounds, that being able to suffer with people together like that. I'm like, that's what I miss. That's what I want. And the guys, like if I tell guys at work like that, they're like, you're an idiot. But I'm like, I get it. But you have to just experience it, man. Like, I'm not no snowflake, whatever. So
yeah, that camaraderie, that suffering together. We don't talk about it a lot, but that week after World's Toughest, there's like an emotional aspect to it too. You're like, oh my gosh, it's over. Like this thing that I was looking forward to all year and that I worked for, and that it's 24 hours and it's done. It's over forever. And like there's not like, I don't know. I think depression is too strong a word, but it's like there's an emotional effect, after the race, especially if you like physically, like, you gave everything you had and you got, maybe you hit whether you hit your goal or not. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, it's over. And you feel it emotionally.
And you know what? And that feeling and knowing that that's coming, that's one of the main reasons why I tell people, more advice, I guess, like the fact that it is such a big gap between events. Like if you're not feeling well or, and you're like, it's the middle of the night and you're thinking about like ending it, not your life, obviously, but the race. And you want to go turn your chip in. It's like, dude, you have all night to turn your chip in. Right. I did that in 2016 when I got hurt. I turned in my chip at like midnight or 11:30 or something. And I'm just like, cause my rib, it hurt and I wasn't able to go. And like when I woke up from my nap, I was like, and ended up going back out without my chip just to do 3 laps for whatever, like instantly regretted it. So, and you got the whole year to think about it. That's the thing. So it's like, dude, it doesn't matter if you turn it in at 6, 8 in the morning, 12, don't turn your chip in. Yeah.
Do not turn that chip in until they ask you for it. Like,
yep.
And it's at 24 hours and 1 minute and no soon. Like, do not.
You always have the option of getting back out there because you never, trust me, you never know. You could take a 3-hour nap and wake up and be like, you know what? I was being a little bee. I'm okay. And out you go.
Don't ever turn that chip in until the race is over. The horn has sounded. People are taking their tents, not in the middle of the night, but everyone's taking their tent down. Like, Do not ever, you can't get it back. It goes into a box and it's gone for, like, they'll never be able to, like, do not turn that chip in until the race, not your race, the race has ended.
I agree.
All right. That's okay. Here. Okay. Last bit of advice is from Sean Corvell. He told it to me and 1,299 other people. My first World's Toughest Mudder,
which was
2015 was my first year.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know who you were.
He said, I didn't know. Okay. I'll get to Sean's advice in a sec. I saw you out there and I was with somebody and they introduced me to you and they're like, oh yeah, they have this YouTube show. Da, da, da. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I've seen it. Like,
did you? You know what's funny?
You and Josh were an acquired taste for me. Like I wasn't on board at first. I never told you this.
Well, not everyone likes jokes and it definitely an acquired taste is the right way of saying it, by the way. Actually, I think when we were going in to get our bibs, you were set up at a table in the West End doing interviews. And I remember, did
Not-
you have World's Toughest Podcast?
No, not in 2015. Next,
That was 2016.
I'd have to look. It was either 2016 or 2017 I started.
I just remember walking by a table and you had your setup and
Right.
you were interviewing people, and I was just like, who's the bald guy interviewing people? And they're like, oh. So I was like, okay, cool. So obviously I made a lasting impression on you and you on me in 2015. Because here we are.
Anyway, what Sean told me and
Yes.
and the entire start wave is that you're not going to finish at the finish line. Like, you're going to finish out there, and then you get to the finish line.
Yep.
Like,
You still,
and
that's in his start speech still.
yeah, it's good advice. Like, and you know what? Honestly, you're probably going to be finished more than once. You're going to be like, all right, this is my it's 3 a.m. This is my last lap. Like, I'm going to take a nap, and then I'll come out and do a finisher lap. But like, you'll be finished more than once, and you just got to get to the finish line and then get back out.
That's it.
That's it. Hey, how about 2022?
Man, well, there's a lot of interesting things about 20. One of the, like, to tell you a couple of my favorite things already.
Tell me.
Is the fact that it's literally like a full season. Like, there's January events, there's March, like even, well, I was going to say, going back to our thing about like once the end of world, like that's it. There's actually December events for
This
Tough
year
Mudder.
even.
So, what's that?
This year even. Like, there's
Yeah,
a
that's what I mean.
Spartan
So, like,
/ Tough Mudder crossover in Florida.
If you do have the FOMO, you could always just like head out to Florida and do that crossover event, which I don't know, I'm kind of intrigued by that. But actually, okay, we're getting off subject, but
Okay.
the thing that actually about that crossover event, and again, it kind of gets back to the community in general. It's not so much I think it's that people are interested in it. The people who are like somehow adamantly opposed to it are the ones that are intriguing to me. Like, why does that bother you so much? But there's protagonists and antagonists. That's just the way the world works, I guess.
Yeah, they always used to say that the Spartan customers and the Tough Mudder customers are two different crowds, and it didn't.
Right.
I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I think it's true. Like, after doing
Yeah.
the OCR report stuff, and like I
Kyle McLaughlin will swear to you that it's 100% true.
yeah, like I kind of
Not a lot of crossover.
yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that merges. Like, I mean, if you want the teamwork and camaraderie, like, Tough Mudder's your thing, and if you want the competition and like what am I made of, Spartan's your thing. Like, and you can go. I mean, people can do both, but I get
Right.
how one appeals more to certain people.
Throwing spears and doing burpees. And
I am sure people that do Spartan races look at you and me getting electrocuted and they're like, "What is wrong with you?"
yeah,
Like it, and I
look
get
at
it.
myself sometimes and think the same thing.
Like I get the but then like if I sit down on the couch to watch something on Saturday morning, I don't really want to watch teamwork and camaraderie. Like, I want to watch a competition. I want to watch
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way of putting it.
I want to watch Atkins versus Albin. I want to watch Lindsey Webster versus Nicole Miracle. I want to see the race. So
Yep.
I don't think. Anyway, this is obviously a Tough Mudder podcast, but I think you can make the argument for both of them.
To get to the 2022 though, like, I mean, yeah. So first off, you literally have events, Tough Mudder, like just scattered all across, the early months, which I think is great because for the longest time it was like we didn't do anything until April, right? And now you got March and you got January. Arizona's like in January or February, I think. So that's exciting. And then they've got the three, which again, another one of those things that like people like jump on and have the weird opinions about, but the 3 distances, right? The 5, 10, and 15K, which I think is, I think it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. Because I know people who've done the 5K and then been like, I'm like, oh, you're gonna do the classic next. And like, I don't know. That's really having that intermediate race, I think is a really good idea.
Everyone knows how long a 5K is, right? Like, even people who don't like running or fitness have probably done a charity 5K.
Yeah.
Like, I think not everybody, obviously, and so if you see a 10K, like, okay, well, I know what a 5K, so that's twice. And then you see a 15K and you're like, well, the math is a lot easier. Like, going from 5K to 10 miles seems, I get it. Now, when you and I started, it was 10 miles and that's all you got. And you said, thank you. And you were done.
That's right.
But
here's my money.
Yeah, but I get it. Like, it's and the 15K is essentially what we've been doing as a classic for the last 5 or 6 years. So yeah, I have no problem with it. I get why people are like, what, but whatever, that's fine.
Well, the thing that I think is funny is and again, when I say people, I'm talking about commenters on Instagram. Which, why do we care about that? But anyway, I see it, is, you get the people that are like, oh, of course they're Spartan now, so they have to do 3 distances because that's all Spartan does. And it's just like, when Kyle says those things aren't related, I absolutely believe those things aren't related. Like,
we've had the Holy
Joe
Grail.
DeSena came flying down and was like, why aren't you doing 3 distances?
Yeah. We've had the Holy Grail for however many years, 5 years, 6 years.
Since 16, 17.
And that's, I hate to break it to everybody, that's 3 distances. Like 2 of them are measured in time, but okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about Tough Mudder Infinity kind of replacing Tougher Mudder?
I was never a big Tougher Mudder guy. I did one and it was kind of neat, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know. So yeah, I read about it the other night. Oh, I heard Kyle on with you. And then the other night when I knew we were going to be talking about it, I wanted to get more information. So I went to the website and kind of like browsed through it all. I'm actually, and this is from someone who's done like multiple laps in a day before, just, for training purposes, but like, I kind of like it. I like the idea that I get to do like a couple laps or more, and it means something. Like it adds, it's not just about training or Strava. It's like, it's going to go towards something.
Why don't you tell the people at home, what is Tough Mudder Infinity?
Tough. So why don't you?
Okay. So Tough Mudder Infinity is a
my notes.
multi-lap race. Similar. Some people are like, oh, it's toughest mudder during the day. And that's close, but I don't think it's exactly right. Because here's what it is. You start at 7:30. You're the first wave of the day on a Saturday, and you run a Tough Mudder Classic. You run the 15K. After you run the 15K, this is about, just like Toughest Mudder or World's Toughest Mudder, it's about accumulating mileage, right? Except this time, instead of 5 miles at a time, you're basically doing it 5K or 15K at a time. So your first lap is 15K, and then after that, you get to choose. You can do more 15K laps, or you can do 5K laps. And the 5K laps, when they started the 5K, it had like all the easy obstacles on it, like the easier, and then it had like one fun one and one hard one kind of thing, right? But they've kind of changed. Like Kyle told me that they're putting the 5K people on the electroshock now,
which is good. I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, so and then you accumulate as you accumulate, 5, kilometers in 5K increments. There are bibs you can earn, just like World's Toughest. And the highest one is the 60K bib, which is 60K, of course, is in miles. Well, everyone knows at home, so I don't even need to say it.
I know. I'm like 6. I'm like, hold on. 15, 10, 20, 30.
It's 12 5Ks. So 12 times 3 is what, 36 miles?
There you go.
Give and change.
But you got time parameter. They shut the course down, or they shut. You get to start your last lap.
So and they have time. It's basically a 10-hour race. So you have 10 hours to get as many kilometers as you can. They shut they close the start line at different times for the 15K and the 5K. But just think, if you think of it, it's a 10-hour race. Toughest is a 12-hour race. World's Toughest is 24 hours. So, and it's on a regular Tough Mudder course. Like the obstacles will be the exact same obstacles that'll be there on a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon. Those are the exact. A Toughest Mudder and World's Toughest Mudder, they have some of those same obstacles, but they have more difficult obstacles. That was the one mistake I made my very first World's Toughest Mudder. I was like, oh, it's just a really long Tough Mudder. I can do that. It's not. It is a really long Tough Mudder, but the obstacles are harder. Like
you weren't wrong, but you were wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I think I was looking at it and I thought like on a good day, if I was really pumping, I bet I could do, well, my goal I guess would be to do 3 15K laps, and then I should have enough time to, because by then they'd be closing the start, knowing my speed or lack thereof. They'd be closing the start line for the 15K, and I could probably sneak in get a 5K in. So I'd get what, 50, 45, 50, no, 15, 45, 50K, I guess, right?
If you do 3,
So that
50,
would
50.
Which would be cool. Now that's because I figured 2.5 hours, right, per lap for a 10K or 15K. I don't know. The math seemed better the other night when I was at work, but perhaps it's a little fuzzy now.
We just talked about not doing math.
I know. I do it for my job, so
you mentioned running multiple laps. People have been running multiple laps for years, right? Like it's kind of a World's Toughest Mudder training thing. Like you go out you're there in the first wave on Saturday morning and you do 2 laps. If
Two or three.
If you're crazy, if you're hardcore, you can do 3 laps. Like if you're fast enough, you can do 3 laps, right? And then you go home, you sleep, you get sore, you wake up in the morning, and you come back on Sunday and you do one if you're fast and you can get fit 2 laps in. They usually do less waves on Sunday.
Sundays are tough. Yeah.
So
and I've seen, and there's some, I'm not going to say they're getting heat for it, but there is some, there's a little bit of feedback that I've seen floating around that's like, oh, this is, again, any criticism that people are doing of Tough Mudder right now, they blame Spartan, right? I've seen that where it's like, oh, this is just Spartan's way of, it's a money grab to like get the multi-lap people to like pay money for running multi-laps. And it's like, lighten up, Francis. But by the way, yeah, who else is going to get that? That's for our elder statesmen who understand that reference. What a great movie, by the way. But I'm just, you know what I mean? So it's just, people are going to try to find something about everything anytime you change it. Like people hated the idea when they first did Tougher and Toughest because it was like the whole thing about Tough Mudders is not competitive, and now you're meh. And it's like, dude,
I think Toughest.
like,
I mean,
pet a
they've.
puppy and chill out.
I think Toughest Mudder is one of the smartest things they've done since ever. Like when they first started, it was 10 miles and World's Toughest, right? 10 miles is hard for most people. Like most people in the world, right? Looking around, you go to the mall. Most of the people, 10 miles would be hard for, right?
No one goes to the mall anymore, buddy. But okay.
No. Like when they're going to the soda fountain with anyway.
Right.
Even if
Does
you
the
can
girl on
do
roller skates come out and give me my food?
exactly.
Like,
Even
okay.
if you can do, you know what? That's kind of become a thing again. Like DoorDash is basically just like those things, but they just come all the way to your house now instead of coming just
Without
to your
roller
car.
skates?
Yeah.
The roller skate is the car.
Anyway.
Okay. All right.
But there's a big leap from 10 miles to 24 hours. That's a huge, incrementally, that's the biggest leap in Tough Mudder like that they've ever had. And so throwing the toughest, first it was 8 hours and then the 12 hours, however you want to do it. It was the perfect kind of, it's still a big leap, but it's like a good incremental. And so they have all these other steps. I have no problem with them. And money grab, like if I started throwing money in the air, people would start grabbing it. So I don't want to hear any of that hypocrisy.
Yeah. So I actually like, I mean, and the cool thing is, there's the bummer, I guess, is because of since Infinity is coming out, there's only 2 toughest next year. You saw that, right? They're going to do East, which is, what is it, Philly again?
I don't have those. I don't have those in front of me.
Philly and the other one, it's like Indiana or something. It's like it's a new location.
The 2 toughest mudders next year are in Philly and Indiana.
Look at me. Took me a minute.
You got it off the top of your head. I had to look it up. There are 10
research, pal.
There are 10 Tough Mudder Infinities. Philly, NorCal, Twin Cities, Colorado, Chicago.
And they're all during the day, which, see, then that's the thing, man. Like when I saw that there's that many, because part of me was like, oh, I'll just do NorCal. But I know NorCal, and it's NorCal in like August or September. And you know what it is? Hot. It's 90 degrees today. It's late September, and it's 90 degrees where I am. So I'm like, if I really wanted to do it and if I thought I was going to try to do it and like do well, I might go like, okay, where is the weather going to be? Where's it flat? And where's the weather going to be mild? Because it's not going to be mild where I live.
There's no shame in that game. A couple years ago, I was like, I want to get my contender status for Worlds. I was looking at the 3 venues for 4 maybe for Worlds.
Did you go to Chicago?
I did go to Chicago, and I got it.
Yeah, of course you did.
That was
You're Will Hicks, man.
That was one of my best races. So there's no shame in that game.
I know.
A few years ago, they had a toughest mudder scheduled for SoCal, and I don't know if it was flooding or for whatever reason, they had to cancel.
That was 2017.
They canceled toughest mudder SoCal, and then a month later, they rescheduled it for Sonoma. But they're like, hey, so it's going to be a daytime toughest.
Yeah, permitting issues. I understand.
And so a lot of people, we went up there, and you were there. I ran it, and we were kind of nervous. We're like, I hope, like we wanted it to be a good event, but there was this kind of discussion, like, I hope it's not too good. Like, I hope this daytime toughest isn't so successful that it kills the nighttime toughest. Because the nighttime toughest are much closer, like, to simulating that nighttime of World's Toughest. That 3 a.m. kind of, you don't get that 3 a.m. feeling, like at a daytime toughest. Daytime toughest was great. It was awesome. And I was like, oh man, it was really good. Like, I had fun, and it was hard, and it was everything you want from an event. And I'm glad that they're able to get close to that experience without and still keep the nighttime toughest mudders.
And if you listen to when Kyle was on with you, he will tell you that daytime toughest is the highest rated like single event they've ever had as far as on their surveys and stuff. Like people loved it, which I think kind of played into them creating this Infinity thing.
Yeah. I mean, it took them 4 years, but they got there.
Well, they had some, if you notice, past couple of years things were a little weird. So they haven't had the smoothest path the past 48 months or so. 48
So
months are there in a year? 24, 12. Okay.
Something.
There you go with math.
Multiple of 12. Every time we've done math this episode, we got in trouble. So there's 10 infinities next year. How many do you think you're gonna run?
Oh, I'll just do if I'll do one. I'm not gonna go crazy, dude. But is Arizona one of them?
Arizona is not. The closest ones to you're in Northern California. I'm in Southern. The closest ones to us are NorCal. Chicago is one. If it's at the same venue it's been in the past, you can get mileage there. There's not a lot on the West Coast.
If it was Glen Helen, I could F right off. But
yeah, it's all Midwest. Colorado. If Colorado's flat again, like it was this year, then that might be good enough mileage. I'll just read them: Philly, NorCal, Twin Cities, Colorado, Chicago, Poconos, Toronto, Seattle, DC/Virginia, Dallas. So if you want to get your Holy Grail in 2022, you need to do one Infinity.
Dallas is flat. Dallas was like if it's at that same like off-road park, that wasn't bad. That's where Toughest was in 2019.
Yeah,
that one's not bad. Or maybe I could just quit being a little snowflake, and which I hate that term, but it's kind of a thing. I could just it's 30 minutes from my house. Why don't I just do it? Oh no, it's gonna be hot.
Well, yeah, you don't have to. I mean, no one's expecting you to run 60 kilometers.
Why not?
You can. So to get your Holy Grail, you need to do a Tough Mudder Infinity.
Oh, that's a lot of miles, dude. This is no joke. This Holy Grail.
Yeah, you need to do a Tough Mudder Infinity. You need to do a Toughest Mudder, which are in Philly and Indiana, and then you got to run World's Toughest Mudder.
Ooh, that's actually. I mean, it makes sense. They have Toughest involved, but that really limits a lot of people. Because it's not like there's a lot of West Coasters that I'll do the one that comes. Oh nope. Philly, Indiana. I don't know anything about that venue.
I've never run Indiana. I don't know. Philly has had a Toughest for several years. Philly always tends to have really. I think if I had to pick between, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna do Indiana.
It's rolling. Philly is out in the Amish country.
But Philly always has. It seems like it always has rain. It's always super cold. It's
a big farm.
What's the date? It's in May. I don't know. Indiana is August 6th.
That sounds hot.
Yeah.
It just sounds humid.
I kind of want to do it. I want to do an Infinity early in the year, and then Toughest August 6th, August, September, October, November. That only gives you 3 months if you get hurt. I'm anyway.
Dude,
as long as I get my 50 miles this year, I'm okay if I get hurt next year. I'm serious, man. You're talking about being a snowflake. I'm the one that I'm a like glass body. Like I don't look frail, but I tell you what, I got broke twice, like a month before World's Toughest Mudder 2 times. So.
What was that? Unbreakable, right? Isn't that movie that Bruce Willis? That was a good movie, by the way. Deceptively good.
Underrated.
Yep. And then they made the sequel, the Mr. Glass. Was it called Mr. Glass? Because that was Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah, it was just called Glass. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That's all right. That's good.
Did you see it? I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah. That's good.
Okay.
He could tell M. Night made it on the cheap, but.
Well, that's right. It's M. Night. Did I say Tarantino? It's M. Night. That's right.
Well, what else about 2022? What are you looking forward to next year?
Boy. Actually, another thing I'm looking forward to, and they're keeping it close to the vest because maybe they don't even know themselves. New venue for Worlds.
So that I just got wind of today. They put out a video 2 days ago, just kind of like just a super, not generic, but like it's Kyle.
It's Kyle standing in front of a wall.
And then like kind of video overlaid of people going through mud and whatever. And
it's like
it's a promo video you've seen 100 times, right? Like next year's going to be great, and which is fine. But then he sneaks something in at the very end of it.
Right at the end.
What does he say?
He throws in the I don't remember the exact words, but he basically says, and then of course also, our brand new venue for World's Toughest Mudder 2022. And you're like, yeah, wait, what?
And that's it. Like it's literally like a half a sentence, and you're like, wait, hey, hold up, rewind.
Yep. That's a good thing about YouTube. You can just click back and you're like, oh. So yeah. So let the prognostication begin, man. Like I have no idea. But
so one year when we were in Vegas, the rumor around the race, like during the race, people are talking like, this is the last year in Vegas. This is the last year in Vegas. And I'm like, I got this podcast. I need to figure out where World's Toughest Mudder is going to be next year.
Yep.
So I looked at after the race, I got home, I looked at all the events for the next year. And I kind of like, you can kind of start guessing. And so I got it down to like 6 or 8. and I was like, okay, it's going to be at one of these venues. Like if it's not in Vegas, it's going to be one of these places. So I started calling the venues, like calling the management companies that like manage the
Shut
venues.
up. Did you really?
And I was like, hey, is your property available to rent, first, second week in November next year? And so I called through like all of them, right? And some of them would give me some of it. Turns out we went back to Vegas. So
Dude, you're tipping your hand though. Don't let
all
Kyle
that
hear
legwork, no good.
Kyle's going to put that in the NDA when they sign a venue. You are not allowed to tell. Well, there's that whole deal. Remember, the one thing was they used to say, look at an event in like October and then look at 3 weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks past that.
Yeah.
And that's probably the venue.
Yeah.
Although this year they flipped it because
Right.
Worlds is at the event and then the following week is the Laughlin actual regular Tough Mudder. So I don't know if we can use that metric anymore.
So I talked to somebody at Tough Mudder today, and I'm just trying to get it out of them what the venue is. And they were being squirrely. They would not tell me. And they said, you will never guess where it is. And
now
so I'm
don't
like,
threaten me with a good time, pal. Let's go.
so I was like, I managed to get out of them that it will be in the U.S. So it won't be in the UK.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think eventually it will go outside the U.S., right? Eventually it will.
Once air travel is more prevalent for everyone.
Yeah, once it's easier to get the Americans over there, and once everyone can travel, and Europe and Australia is figured out.
Those poor guys, they're getting.
Oh man, right? I don't think it'll be. I think World Subs Mudder will be in the U.S. for at least 3 more years, right? 3, 4 at the earliest.
Yeah.
But I have the Tough Mudder calendar on my wall here, and hang on here one sec.
Okay. While you do that, I'm going to ask out loud. Domestically, is there a place domestically I can get Bleg mitts? I need a pair. Or do I have to like order from Australia?
I believe Evan Preparis sells them through the World Subs Mudder community.
Okay, I'll reach out to Evan. I'm sure he's watching this. Hey, Evan, when is this going to air? Next week? This week? I don't know.
So let's say that they keep doing it the way they've been doing it, right? You know what? On the website, it only has through September. But
what?
They have, so for buying them, like you can buy tickets to Pittsburgh September 24th and 25th, 2022. But they released a calendar with unconfirmed dates. Here is the December dates, venues. San Diego and Central Florida in December.
Okay.
The other, they don't have anything past October on that calendar. You know the calendar, like the one sheet calendar they put out?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I think the person who told me, the person who told me that I'll never guess, they know I live in San Diego. So if World's Toughest Mudder 2022 is in San Diego, you heard it here first.
Is that what you're hoping? Well, I can see why you'd be hoping for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, here's the thing. Like, yeah, I love it. Like, I wouldn't have to fly anywhere. I wouldn't have to even drive the 4 hours to Vegas. But it's kind of a
brilliant idea. They could have it at Petco Park in October because the Padres won't be playing there. Oh, I'm sorry.
How'd we get it through an hour of a podcast without talking about the miserable San Diego Padres?
Because I don't want to jinx what's going on with my team. That's why I don't want to have any negative juju out there, man.
Well, clearly the San Francisco Giants will never lose a game the rest of this season, right?
Look at you.
Right?
Look at you.
They can't lose, right?
Right now, I will letter bomb you. I'm not even kidding. I am kidding.
Like with glitter, you mean?
No, like with an actual. I mean, you gave me a chance to escape, and I just doubled down. Sorry, buddy. So San Diego, you think?
So
you don't know. You're just.
I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing.
I would dig Florida because at least it's going to be. Well, though that's not.
Florida will be flat.
It freezes.
You can find hills. San Diego has elevation. Like you can find plenty of hills out here.
Yeah, but there's not a big enough space, is there? Unless you go.
It would be like east. You'd go like half an hour. Like it'd be San Diego. You know, like out Poway or 29 Palms or something.
Where no one wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, November it wouldn't be that hot.
Moreno Valley or something.
Yeah, San Bernardino. You could hold it at Glen Helen and call it San Diego if you wanted to. That'd be a dirty. Although they couldn't because that'd be a dirty trick.
If you wanted to like get everybody mad at you.
They haven't even announced as far as I know, they haven't announced what the San Diego venue is going to be. So they have 5 regular Tough Mudders in California next year.
Is it in October? Because you could have it. It was in October.
Sorry. I feel like I've heard this joke before, and it's equally as funny as the first time.
Pushing my luck here.
Usually jokes are less funny the second time. That time it's just as funny as the first.
Man, you're the best, Will. Oh my gosh. Remember though when we went to that game in like April and you guys were all so excited?
Yeah, we were good back then.
Took 2 or 3 from the Giants. Look at us.
Carlo came to San Diego, and we went to 2 Padre games together. And
We did. I'm
I
gonna
think
do that again, by the way.
something else not related to that, but when you run World's Toughest Mudder
That's how this podcast works.
and you exert yourself and you're in and out of mud and you're around
Yes.
1,000 other people with 1,000 different, kind of communities of germs and stuff, like you will probably be sick at some point immediately after World's Toughest Mudder. Like maybe it's the sniffles, maybe it's a cold, maybe it's just phlegm, maybe it's your body just trying to recover. But like I'm not saying don't, I don't know, just don't freak out. Like be cool. Like if you got something to test, go test. But most people get some kind of like mild sickness after World's Toughest Mudder.
Do you have, I was actually talking with Amelia about this the other day after her 100 miler. Do you have body like thermo regulation issues like the night after World's Toughest Mudder where you get chills and then sweat and then chills? I do. The two times I've gotten 50 miles, I woke up in the middle of the night, like just burning up. And then you strip all the I guess it happens to the ultra guys all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's, because your body still just like doesn't know what's going on and it doesn't know what it wants, or I'm sure someone much smarter than me can explain it easier, but
you know what? Yeah. Like I don't know if it's exactly like that, but the first night you would think like, if you've never done it, like traditional, it would make sense. Like, hey, you're really tired, so you're going to sleep really well that first night.
Yeah.
And that's not, at least
you do
generally not
I
the
don't.
case.
At least I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something else like might surprise people, but
Yeah. You wake up. I remember I was like sweating bullets. I kick all the covers off and I wake up, an hour later and I'm shivering, freezing, uncontrollable shivering. And I bundle back up. So
yeah,
you need to get to it and crawl to the bathroom because my legs hurt so much I can't walk. Like literally crawled like out of the bedroom down to the bathroom one time, hoping no one else is in there. Like, cause I don't want to sit in the hallway and wait for somebody. Anyway.
Matt, last year was the first year. Like usually Vegas, I'd stay at the hotel, the one that's like right there next to the
Westin.
Yeah, the Westin. But in Atlanta, we got an Airbnb, and it's great, big house, and it was cool because we had like big room. You kind of set up gear and stage stuff and get it all ready before you throw it in the truck to take to the venue. It was great.
Right.
But I didn't think about it. It had half the rooms were upstairs, half were downstairs, and my bedroom was downstairs. Like you walk in on the second level kind of thing, and then I have to go downstairs to my room.
Oh no!
And man, getting down those stairs the first night after Worlds and getting back up the next morning was
right,
not pleasant.
Just lay down there. Somebody bring me some food, please.
Like I literally had to like slide down. Like I just sat on my butt and I was.
I completely understand. Yes.
Anyway,
look at that. We've covered a lot, my friend.
I feel like we should wrap it up. But is there anything else we should talk about?
Nothing we can't talk about on the next one. I think we're good. We got there's a lot going on. I'm just really excited. I'm excited about the end of the not the end of the season. I'm excited about, World's coming up. Will be 6 weeks out, something like, which is so you're in that mode, man, where, you see people, those of us that go to multiple events, you see people in like April and May, hey, see you here, see you there. And it's weird when you end an event and you can kind of, you're wrapping up like, well, I guess I'll see you at Worlds. And it's not like see you at Worlds in 3 months. It's like see you at Worlds in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, yo, it's October this weekend. And then that's it. Like, and once it's November, it's like, forget it. Even though it's like, what is it, 11, 12, 13th? Like that. Nope. That's it. It's there. It's on you and there's nothing you can do. So let's go. I'm ready now. I'm so stoked though.
Carlo Piscitello. Thanks much.
You bet, buddy.
Special thanks to Carlo Piscitello for appearing in this episode. Well done, Carlo. If you have a question for Carlo or myself, especially first timers, I get it's intimidating. It's a scary race. It's a scary, scary race. If you have a question for Carlo or you would like us to answer it, or one of us to answer it, text me 619-485-2726. 619-485-2726. I'll answer you over text, but we may use it in a future episode as well. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I will talk with you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.
Okay, hold on really quick. I forgot to mention this. Dude, toughest West. Honestly, it's the coolest thing that I saw. And unfortunately, I say cool, but it's going to probably end up being at Worlds and it's going to kill us. And it's so deceptive. So the penalty for Funky Monkey was this thing. So it's like a big, we had them as kids. It's like a bouncy ball, but it's got like a handle on top.
Sure.
And like they made ones that had like a dinosaur head on them or whatever. But these ones are just a traditional inflatable bouncy ball with a handle on top. And you basically, as a kid, you'd sit on it and you just bounce around. And before the internet, that was fun. Like that's what we would do. And we enjoyed it because we didn't know better. So they basically made like this loop, penalty loop, but you had to bounce on this bouncy ball. But here's the thing. From a spectator standpoint, hilarious because you're watching short people like me bounce around. You're watching people like Trevor Psychos with these giant legs trying to have to like, and the best part is everyone who was failing the obstacle early thought it was fun and hilarious, but then you get 8, 10, 12 hours into the race and your quads are shot. Dude, that thing was brutal. People were complaining like in a just kind of same way they complained about Devil's Taint, like in a hey F you Carlo kind of way. Like I actually text Kyle McLaughlin that night. I'm like, dude, like absolutely brilliant and yet horrible whoever came up with this penalty. And he texts me back like a little clown face, like meh, which means that's all the feedback that guy needs, dude. There's no way that's not going to be at Worlds. I'm telling you. And it looks hilarious, but it just burns your quad. And if you're really tall, good luck, buddy. So shorties like me, we've got a mild advantage on that one. But think about that, man. You're bent you're at least 90 degrees with your knees, right? You're engaging your quads the whole time, and you got to bounce like I don't know. It wasn't even a quarter mile, but it's so stoked.